Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.
Welcome to episode 89 of the Highly Relevant Podcast. I am your host, Jack Rico, and on this episode, I am joined by Latina music journalist from Rolling Stone magazine, Isabela Raygoza, on how US Latinas owned the MTV VMAs this year. What does that say about the dismissal of Latin American artists? You know, the ones who speak Spanish? Well, we also talk about that Maluma performance that has left some scratching their heads, including me. We'll break down the good and the bad of Maluma's VMA performance. Then, how many of you have heard the rule that you can't bring food into a movie theater? Is it true or a massive myth? I called 3 big movie chains and asked them point blank about their food policy.
Hi, thank you for calling AMC Lincoln Square. How can I help you?
Stick around to hear exactly what they told me. I'm joined now by Isabela Raygoza, who is a Latina music journalist who writes for Rolling Stone magazine and Remezcla. Hey, Isabela.
Hey, how's it going, Jack?
Super cool. Listen, so before we get to the VMAs, Latinas, and Maluma, I wanted to talk to you briefly about the article you recently wrote, the 50 Greatest Latin Pop Songs. I know it was a team effort for Rolling Stone magazine, but this must have been very difficult to kind of just condense down to 50. Tell me a little bit about that. How was reporting on that and researching that and curating those songs?
Well, the curation of it was pretty easy because we basically set it up as per year. So, but in terms of selecting, what we had there, it was challenging because when we think about pop is such a huge umbrella, and pop throughout the decades has been consistently redefined. How
do you define pop music?
Well, anything that is popular, and that's how it's been defined. Even when Pink Floyd back in the 60s was considered a pop band, and today we don't think about them that way. But I would say that would be the more general way. Like, for example, reggaeton is synonymous nowadays with Latin pop, where maybe in a different Latin American country, in Mexico precisely, I had a conversation with an editor of Rolling Stone Mexico who was arguing, saying that, well, we don't define reggaeton as pop here, but I'm saying in the U.S., because of the market, they are actually making, they're climbing up the pop charts on Billboard. So yeah, they do become pop. So it's very tricky, and with salsa, with Fania Records as well. Like, they obviously did not start pop as pop by then, but then based on the population of people really like being influenced by these roots of salsa and making music that are like Marc Anthony today, the salsa, now he's considered a Latin pop artist. So we basically obviously, yes, it was a collective effort, but we looked into what was like hitting the charts, like in terms of statistics, but also what are some songs that have gone past the radar. We wanted to have a mix of everything and not replicate any type of chart throughout the decades.
Did you get any feedback, any criticism or constructive criticism regarding this? For example, number 1, Benny Moré, Bonito y Sabroso. Did anybody go, wait a minute, what are you talking about? That's not the greatest pop song, Latino pop song of all time.
Yeah, well, there are songs like that one, and even Daniela Romo too.
Oh my goodness, I remember her.
Because there are artists that are obviously more popular than that, but I feel that even just obviously these lists are always going to be controversial, and no one is ever going to be 100% satisfied with what's selected. But a lot of the criteria that we did, we wanted to really span the decade starting from the 50s. So that was really important for us to not heavily weigh it on more contemporary music, but spanning it through what has actually had a a mark in pop culture history, whether it's been a pop culture presence, whether it's been them rating on the charts, whether these artists have sold out stadiums, whether it was a concert staple. So we definitely look at different angles when selecting these songs, not just necessarily on the ratings.
Well, you can go check it out in rollingstone.com, the 50 greatest Latin pop songs. It's on right now. So let's get into it. Did you get a chance to see the VMAs?
I skimmed it. I recently saw like a lot of the videos. I didn't actually see it live, but I was.
Why is that? Why is that? Because that was the same situation that happened with me, and I don't know if it's an age thing or is it that these VMAs are always so chaotic and never really fully structured.
Well, obviously they did have a very fundamental role in the 80s when they were dominating TV ratings, and it did have a very alternative and bold introduction, and it really did define a couple eras like the 90s and the early 2000s. There was a lot of historical moments that happened with that, when Kanye West called out Taylor Swift, when Britney Spears performed Barely Nude. So there's a lot of these moments that we've had. And what's actually funny, because I was recently researching just the ratings, and I read that viewership dropped by 50% in the past 3 years. So to me, that was insane. And I do feel that a lot of the chaos that you're describing is because they want to approach the ceremony through different ways. So they're obviously...
Yeah, they're the anti-Grammys.
Oh, yeah.
They're the anti-establishment. That's exactly what their whole mission statement is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A couple of things from watching the VMAs, and what stood out to me were the three big winners of the night. First winner, Cardi B, Best New Artist, Dominicana. Then you got Jennifer Lopez, who won the Vanguard Award, which is their lifetime award, and Puerto Riqueña. And then you had the shocker of the night, Camila Cabello, Cuban American, who beat out Beyonce and Drake and everybody else. And I was like, wow, okay, they gave it to her, Una Cubanita, that just started out. It's her debut album and already won Video of the Year. That's a little shocking. And then I saw the Maluma performance. So let's handle the females first. And one of the big questions I wanted to ask you is, what does that say about women, Latina women doing Latino music, or at least that Latino vibe of music, versus male Latinos in the mainstream music?
What's interesting about these three women is that they actually already entered the American market. They didn't necessarily cross over from Latin America to the United States, whereas the males are actually from like countries from Latin America, like Colombia, like Puerto Rico, DR. So all of these artists already made their rep with that. So I think that it's a bit safer for the VMAs to at least heavily host people from the States, because it's more accessible, obviously, to the audiences. They all sing in English, but everybody with those three women obviously always pay tribute to their heritage. They always mention where they're from. They collaborate with a lot of the Latino artists as well. So I don't necessarily identify a specific pattern of them just being female, but I do that they are from the States.
So now let's take a look at Maluma's performance. When I found out, and I found out through Twitter, that Maluma was performing at the VMAs, I was a little bit just verklempt. Not because he doesn't deserve it, but because it's a head scratcher. Like, what it just felt random.
So random. I felt the same way.
And I was like, Maluma and singing in Spanish? I mean, it was a bit of a head scratcher. But look, here's the good and the bad of Maluma's VMA performance. The good was we get to celebrate a Latino artist. I mean, historically, they don't even nominate us. It's like we don't even exist in the MTV universe. I mean, there's an MTV Latin America, but in MTV, Hispanics don't really exist. So to have Maluma perform there is great. The fact that he sang in Spanish, I mean, what was the last time that you really heard anyone speak Spanish or singing Spanish or a whole performance in Spanish on the MTV VMAs? I think Shakira was like the last time.
Yeah.
That was like a decade ago. So this is a rare thing. So that causes a celebration to hear our language. But here's the bad part. The majority of the people in there are white and black. They're American, English-speaking Americans. So it's hard for them to follow up with the song. They probably never even heard of the song. This was supposed to be the Ricky Martin legacy performance. That performance that would shoot Maluma into stardom. That this morning, every single entertainment outlet would be talking about this incredible, energetic, Grammy-like Ricky Martin performance that we never got.
He's barely about to break in. He didn't have the following in terms of the American audience. Like when he performed last year at the Latin Grammys, the same song, he got censored a lot because there's some racy lyrics there. And to me, the way that I described it then was that he was trying to pull a Jim Morrison on the Ed Sullivan Show. But it doesn't have the same effect today because back then you risk being banned by television, like in your career, and your career would be ruined.
Should we compare Maluma more like Prince Royce in what he was trying to do? I mean, I think his crossover into the mainstream market was a fail. I don't necessarily think that worked. Here's a Latino pop star, right? Bachatero, but who doesn't sing like super racy, edgy. He was kind of born as a wholesome, nice kid that then became a little bit more sexy. They really put a lot of investment. Jennifer Lopez did a duet with him, and it didn't work. None of the songs went to number one. There was no Despacito. He wasn't in the top 10 of the Hot 100 Billboard in a year where it felt like almost every Latino star, every Latino singer was making a top 10 last year or this year. And you didn't see Prince Royce really make a lot of rumble. So do you think that Maluma's crossover career is going to end up like either Prince Royce, Romeo Santos, or Ricky Martin?
It might end up, if you're giving me those three options, I would probably say
I'll throw in Luis Fonsi.
I'm not gonna. No, I think it's more closer to Prince Royce, but I mean they do have different foundations. Like, I mean, Prince Royce was primarily known as a bachata singer, and for a second there, it seemed like it was going to make the Latin pop charts, or it was going to become a mainstay in the charts. As Romeo Santos was definitely, they just like really firing it up. But I think that with the reggaeton sound, pop reggaeton sound, it's something that if more hits that are really good continue to happen, that people can actually, like investors can invest money and actually put in the marketing. It requires that, like you said, having a great publicist, people really putting in the cash to really get to that exposure. Then it depends on how many people are willing to continue founding his career.
I think his management, I don't know what the strategy is, and I can't see it. I think they think there's something that works there, but
I think it's the sex appeal. Sex sells, and they're definitely cashing in on that. But with a male perspective, they're using that as a very strong element to his selling his work. Obviously, with just these formulaic, catchy reggaeton pop hits to boot, but it's definitely the image for him.
To me, Isabela, the way to crack into the American market eventually, if that's what these artists want to do, what does Ricky Martin, Enrique Iglesias, Jennifer Lopez, Mark Anthony, Shakira all have in common? Pitbull, what do they all have in common?
They sing in English.
Yes. They all sang in Spanish at one point.
Yes.
And they all decided to sing in English. And where are they now? Still jamming out, still doing concerts after 20 years in the business after they broke out. A lot of these people are still here because they sing in English. So this idea of Romeo Santos, Juanes, Maluma, again, it's the echo chamber where we're forcing you to learn another language. Come on, it's really difficult. People don't even want to read anymore. That's why the newspaper business and magazines are going out. So to force somebody to put that work in to learn Spanish, it's too much work, guys. You're not taking into consideration. You're not taking into consideration people's time, the difficulty of knowing another language. I know for you it'd be great to have all white people and all black people speak Spanish, but that's not reasonable. That's not sensible for people to do, because Koreans don't ask us to do that.
Yeah.
So I just think if he came out with an English language song and Taylor Swift, I think it would have been a smart strategic move. Him and Jay-Z, or him and somebody that everybody loves and that allows him to be introduced, and then maybe sing an English language song that's maybe Spanglish.
Yeah.
But none of that happened. And this, I felt, was forced. I don't necessarily think people were like, what do I do with this? I don't know whether to, what kind of song is that? Is that salsa? Because I know there's a salsa version with Mark Anthony. I was a little, I didn't know what to think. I was like.
Just for the fact that nobody really in the audience recognized him, and he doesn't have, a long career for anyone to actually reference, or like a global, hits. He is like a billion streaming viewed man, but he has that in his name. But obviously that comes from like mainly Latin or Spanish speaking people that see his work. But I think it's a good experiment to actually, make a bold risk, to come into this show that is like, revered and globally acclaimed throughout the years. Yes, it has plummeted in the past years, but to just, do an experiment, and maybe that's also the producers trying to find a new approach to, maybe cause a commotion or, start a conversation. In that sense, it's cool. Even though, let's say that he did screw it up, I don't think there's things as bad publicity or good publicity, because
right.
As long as someone is still talking about you, you are, you are being talked about, and that can only work to your benefit.
I agree. And before I let you go, Isabela, wanted to ask you about the Madonna Aretha Franklin moment. There's been a lot of backlash and controversy about this.
Aretha Louise Franklin changed the course of my life.
I've heard both sides of the coin. So the first side of the coin was, I can't believe that this is all about Madonna. She came out there, instead of attributing Aretha Franklin, all she did was talk about herself. And then when Camila Cabello accepted it, she was just like, yeah, whatever. I know you love me. I know you revere me. Whatever. Keep on, little girl. But
oh my God, seriously.
But then there's the other side, when she was confronted and they asked her the same question. It's like, hey, what was that all about? She said, first of all, I didn't go there to do a tribute to Aretha Franklin. I actually went there to just introduce the video for the best video of the year. Mm-hmm. And that was supposedly the thing I was brought in. And then all of a sudden, last minute, they were like, oh, hey, can you do the Aretha Franklin tribute? Okay. Just do an anecdote about something that you felt where she inspired you or influenced you in any way. And just give an anecdote. The anecdote was a little bit long-winded. I'll agree with that. But if I was in her situation, I probably would have done the same thing, told the story. It's live television. You're not reading a prompter. You're telling your own story. So, it could be a little long-winded. And there's nobody there to tap in and say, hey, can you shorten it down? They probably never rehearsed it. Mm-hmm. So there's a part of me that understands Madonna very well. Where do you lie on both sides of the coin?
Well, to be honest, I didn't hear about the latter of it being such a very last-minute decision for her to give an anecdote in regard to Aretha Franklin. I initially, when I saw it, being surprised without having the background information, would think along everybody else where, oh, wow, there she is talking about herself when, she should be, honoring, giving something more like, appropriate, like, and not just turn it back to her. But when you tell me that, then I'm like, okay, then that's totally fair. But where I will disagree is when she still made a comment about when she first when she first performed in the VMAs in the 80s and did like a virgin, and then she lost her shoes, she came out of this cake or something. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe she could have just left that out, because that there was nothing related to her entire speech for her to actually tie that in.
5% of the speech was about Aretha. The other 95% was really about her. And I think that's just Madonna.
Yeah, that's what she's known for. And I mean, I feel like the producer should have just selected somebody else, and somebody could have...
Right. Anybody in that audience could have done it. Any legend could have done it.
anyone that actually collaborated or worked with her or was influenced highly by her, which could have been easy to find.
Bueno, Isabela Raygoza, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about the VMAs, the Latin influence, Maluma's long-term perspectives in the mainstream industry, and this Madonna Aretha Franklin little debacle that happened. What do you got coming up next for Rolling Stone?
For Rolling Stone, I have this article coming up on Anitta, this Brazilian a baile funk, reggaeton pop singer who's also sort of poised to be a crossover star. People are buzzing that she might be like a next Shakira. Who knows?
I think that's a Jessie Reyes thing. I think Jessie Reyes is amped up to be the next crossover Latina star.
Yeah, her as well. So, and I think that this is good because we never really had a Brazilian sort of represent like Latin music as
You're
often.
right.
So to see somebody like singing trilingually, like Portuguese, Spanish, and now English, collaborating with Rita Ora, Pharrell, even who else? I forgot. But it's a lot of really good stars that are really just lining up with her. J Balvin did a single with her, Downtown. She won a hit of the year this year for that song, and she did some stuff with Major Lazer and Diplo. So I'm really excited about her work. That's coming up this week on Rolling Stone. So that's one thing.
Awesome. All right, muchísimas gracias, Isabela. We'll talk to you soon.
It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yes. Saks Underwear recently released their new undercover collection made of super soft cotton modal. It keeps you cool no matter what. The result is that it's breathable, moisture wicking, and resistant to odor. They're also the only men's underwear I use because of the ballpark pouch. It has these internal mesh panels that keep everything in place. There's nothing else out there like these. I want you to try Saks as well, so I work with Saks Underwear on a limited time deal just for you. Shop from anywhere on their site and get $5 off, plus free shipping on your first purchase. But you need to use my promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT at checkout. Order a few pairs of Saks right now with this great offering. Go to Saks Underwear at SAXXunderwear.com. That's Saks with 2 X's, and use the promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT at checkout. Remember, SaksUnderwear.com, promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT. The other day I saw an email from Quora.com where someone asked what the greatest lie society ever told us was. And one guy responded, the fictitious rule that you couldn't bring food into a movie theater. Now, at first I didn't believe this guy's answer because I had spent a whole childhood finding creative ways to sneak in chips, chocolate bars, sodas into the movies. But then I called 2 movie chains and an independent theater, AMC, Regal Cinemas, and the Angelica Film Center, to kind of just gauge a true sense for whether you can bring food into a movie theater or not. And I was shocked at what they told me.
Hi, thank you for calling AMC Lincoln Square. How can I help you?
Hi, how are you? I wanted to know, what's your policy for bringing in food into the theater?
We're not very strict on it, but if you are carrying like a 4-course meal, then you're obviously not going to be able to get inside the theater, yeah.
So
But we're not entirely strict about it.
Got it. So I can just bring in some food as long as it's not outrageous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like if you want to bring in like some chips or anything like that, you can totally, go ahead.
A sandwich, a burrito, my book bag.
That's fine.
All right, cool.
Yeah. In your book bag, nobody's going to check your book bag.
Perfect. All right, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Okay. No problem. Have a good day.
Well, as you can see, AMC is pretty lax with their food policy, especially if it's in your book bag. I'm never going to forget that one again. I then called Regal to see if they too allowed food to be brought in.
Thank you for calling the Regal Cinemas. You walk Stadium 13. Is Erica speaking? How may I help you?
Hi, Erica. Wanted to know what your policy is for bringing in food into the theater.
So there's really like no outside food that can be brought inside.
I can't bring in chips in my bag.
Oh, you can bring chips, but as far as like food, like pizza or burger, you might have to finish it in the lobby.
Got it. So if it's pizza, burgers, a burrito, I can't bring that in.
Yeah.
But if it's like chocolate bars, gummy bears, chips, Doritos, and maybe something to drink, right? A Coke in a bottle.
Yeah, you can.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so Regal seems to be not as lax as AMC. Like, for example, hot food, probably not a good idea. It's going to have to be finished right outside, but you can bring in cold food, no problem. Then I called the Angelica Film Center. It's a popular indie movie theater here in New York that many New Yorkers go to, and just to see if their rules were any different.
Thank you for calling Angelica Film Center. This is Jordan. How can I help you?
Hey, Jordan. Besides having a cool name, I wanted to ask you a question. What is your policy for bringing in food into the theater?
Well, we're anti-bringing food into the theater, but if you have like leftovers or something, it'll be fine.
Got it. So, I mean, like, what would be something outrageous?
Well, give me an example.
I mean, now, chips, some gummy bears, a chocolate bar, along with maybe a bottle of Coke.
I mean, that kind of stuff. I would say if you could bring it in like a bag or something.
Right, like my book bag.
Yeah, as long as you're not like being super blatant or anything, I think it'll be fine.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
There you go, folks. You can bring food into a movie theater. Jeez, I can't believe I was lied for this long. So what I took away from these 3 calls is that theaters that I called do carry a food policy. They just don't enforce it as long as it is not excessive and obvious. In other words, you can bring in anything you want as long as it doesn't look like a meal you would eat at a restaurant. And it shouldn't be in plain sight either. Like, a soggy slice of rice pizza while you're handing your ticket to the usher. Yeah, that's not only like rude, that's kind of bold and challenging the guy. He's going to tell you to take that out. But, it's interesting. To me, that's not good business, though. By actually enforcing the unenforced policy, you'd have no other choice than to buy the movie theater's food, which would make them tons of money because that's how they make money. That's how the movie theaters make real money. They make it by selling you food at the concession stand. So hopefully this info helped clarify some doubts you might have had since your childhood. I know it was for me. And if you'd like to hear more of these segments, let me know. I'm on Twitter, Jack Rico Official. That is at Jack Rico Official. That's it for episode 89 of the Highly Relevant Podcast. I want to thank Isabela Raygoza for hanging out with me, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation as well. If you'd like to support the show, you can do it by sharing the show on your social media and telling all your friends about it. Remember, it's through your word of mouth that our show can grow. I'm Jack Rico. See you next week on another episode of Highly Relevant.
Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.